Good News collection, Sri Lanka's Pride. This new publication shares positive and uplifting stories from across Sri Lanka and much more.
I am Rosh from Beauty by Rosh, and I'll be answering Living's questions today.
Hi Rosh, welcome to Living Gets Real. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's jump into the first question. What began as a beauty blogging in your parents' home in Sri Lanka has now led you to London Fashion Week. So when you look back, what feels like the biggest turning point in that journey?
It's a really interesting thing to look back to 10 years ago, right? I mean, really, I always say this, you never know what's around the corner or in the future. I don't like to plan too much ahead because of that. And I think I take it step by step and just like to take any opportunity that comes my way. So that's like one thing I've always done in my career. And in my personal life, to be honest, I'm very much my same person in my personal life and my business life. There's no one turning point, but I think there's a few I should mention. One was in 2016, only a year, maybe not even, into beauty blogging in my parents' room. Vogue India emailed me and wanted to feature me as one of the upcoming South Asian beauty bloggers. I, to be honest, thought it was a prank. You know, you get all those fake spam emails, and I had to actually double check if this person works for Vogue. So I think that was really one of the main turning points. It was such a long time ago, but it made what I was doing more formal, more like real, I suppose, rather than just me getting on YouTube and putting it up on my own editing videos. Someone had noticed me. So that was a big deal. I think that was a turning point. And then, well, the biggest one for me, obviously, is starting Beauty by Rosh, like the products, which is in 2020. And that step wasn't so hard for me. It was a natural progression. And I think slowly that changed everything. It changed for me to be an entrepreneur rather than just a blogger or whatever. So I don't know, I think it's those two things that really kind of set the tone to what it is today. And I think being open to try anything. I'm really open to try anything, both in my personal life and my professional life, and I never really say no to any opportunity. I always first think, oh, how can I do this? Not, oh no, like, how do I do this? That's not kind of my way. If it's London Fashion Week or even like Colombo Fashion Week when we did it, we were only 1 year into the business. And usually a brand wouldn't think about doing something so vast or big with other bigger brands that do things like Fashion Week. But I was like, no, how can we do this? And like, I always think of like ways to make the opportunity kind of come to life. So yeah.
That's amazing, Vogue India. Wow. So you moved to Australia to build a brand in a completely new country. What was it like navigating a new market as a migrant and first-generation entrepreneur?
So that feels like a really loaded question because it is true. It was really hard because you are a migrant in a new place. I did move, to be honest, for my personal life because I met my husband, now husband, at the time boyfriend, and we were doing long distance for a while. Actually, it wasn't a long time. It was about 5 months, and I moved across the continent to be with him. Like I said, I like to try new things. Okay, I'm never really scared. Like I met this guy on Tinder. Yes, I met this guy on Tinder. And we really hit it off, and then we started talking for about 4 or 5 months, and I moved to Melbourne. I've never even been to Australia. I've been around the world, but Australia has never really caught my eye to travel. Like, I've been to the US, I've been to Italy, I've kind of traveled a lot even before I met him. However, I'd never even been to Australia, and I packed my bags, said goodbye to my apartment in Thailand, and I moved to be with this new guy who had just been WhatsApping and talking on the phone with. We had met, obviously, but yeah, and that was just a chance I took, and it all worked out. It's been 8 years since we've been together, and we've been married for a long time now. And so that's why I moved to Australia. So my personal life took me there, and 2 years into living in Australia, I decided to start my brand. It isn't easy. I think we like to say we can't do a lot of things. Or how do I start? Where do I start? How do I do this? I think there's always a way. I just didn't start with a lot of money. As you said, I'm a first generation business owner. My dad worked his whole life to give me the privileges and the life that I have. I always say I'm very blessed to have had parents who took really good care of me and gave me a great childhood. This love for traveling that I have and things I do is truly because of them. And he worked really hard. He worked for 26 years in one company at Anglo Asian, and then worked another 26 years when they shut down at Kent. And he really worked his way up by just doing CIMA. And then he became an accountant, and he became a director of finance. And finally, he gave us such a good life. But I saw him working day in, day out just to give me and my mom the life that we had, the lovely things that we like. We loved fashion. This love for fashion and makeup come from my mom. But my dad worked really hard to give us those. And I always, I think I had it in me to want to be an entrepreneur. I really like doing business, and I think I really like marketing and things like that. To get back to the question, it was really hard in Australia, but there is always a way. And it's not easy being a brown person in a very white dominant community there, and also the beauty industry. There's not a lot of people who are our skin tone and entrepreneurs in the beauty space. There is now in the last 10 years or so, or maybe even 15 years, but before that, not so much. We used to borrow a lot of products and a lot of ideas and a lot of things from the Black community, to be honest. The reason that we even had foundations, for example, or shades that matched us was thanks to the Black creators, to the African American communities that created beautiful products that we can borrow from. There wasn't a lot of brown, creators or independent brands, to be honest. So it's been a bit of a journey, but I've spoken at Beauty Expo Australia for 3 years consecutively, being one of their speakers. I've also been a Google speaker. So these are things that, I look for opportunities to. They don't always come knocking. You look around and you see where you can fit in and all of that. And I think I found a place in Australia for myself. And first generation business owner, there's no blueprint. There's not a lot of funding. It's all self-funded. But I think it's something I'm really passionate about. And I love creating products, and I love creating a space for brown people to shine and to show our diversity. And I always think we're really beautiful as the way we are. And I think we're so influenced by everything we watch, everything on social media, everything on TV, because everything is very much I suppose everyone's fairer and things like that. So I think we have a lot of pressure, but I really hope to change that in the future. I hope I'm changing that as we speak, because I want to have more inclusivity in the beauty industry. So that's really what I'm working towards.
That's a very interesting journey. So partnering with London Fashion Week as an Australian Sri Lankan beauty brand is historic. What did that moment mean to you personally beyond the headlines?
Oh my God, a lot. To be honest, a lot. I'm not someone who really makes a big deal out of a lot of, I suppose, achievements. That's what my husband says. But for me, this one was really special, because I think this is really, so far, one of the biggest things I've done in my career and in my personal life. I can't even sometimes believe I'm saying, hey, Beauty by Roche is going to be backstage at London Fashion Week. Because I'll tell you a story about how it came about, because it's quite like random. My life is a bit like spontaneous. I'm a very spontaneous person. You won't believe that this decision was made in about 2 to 3 weeks. That's all it took for us to do London Fashion Week. And if there's a will, there's a way. So how it happened was, my husband, Ranga, he actually said, you know, babe, like in January, okay, now we're in Feb, okay, so this is the timeline. This year, January, I wouldn't have known that we're doing London Fashion Week. Because my husband said, babe, you should really look at one of the big fashion weeks and see if you can do one of them. And I was like, Because the big four is Paris, Milan, London, and New York. And I was like, this is a random casual conversation. And I'm like, but how would I do that? I don't know anyone then. How do you go about doing that? Like sponsoring London Fashion Week or whatever. Then he said, if anyone can figure it out, it'll be you. And I was like, He gives me a lot of confidence, to be honest. So he just said that. And so therefore I looked into it. And here we are, 2-3 weeks later, a couple of emails, a few Zoom calls, and we're in, And it is the first time an Australian brand has ever partnered with London Fashion Week in the beauty space. We're the first makeup brand to ever have showcased on the runway. So our brand is going to be historically the first, which is fantastic. And obviously it's great because I'm a Sri Lankan entrepreneur as well. So I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited because I think it'll live with me forever. It'll be like that Vogue thing that I will forever, have as something I achieved. So I'm really, really happy about it.
That's absolutely amazing. So Beauty by Roche has always championed inclusivity. From brown skin friendly products to campaigns showcasing all gender and body types. Why was that non-negotiable for you from the very beginning?
I think, again, going back to my parents, I put a lot of stock in my personal life. I always say this, I will choose my personal life over my business life. I mean that in the sense, if someone told me, if it's Andy, my dog, versus my business, who I would give up, I would never give up Andy. I would give up my business. And that's really strange for some people because I built a big thing. But I always think you can build that again. If you built it once, you can build it again. And I can't get my dad back, or I can't get my dog back. Do you know what I mean? So I will always choose them. If it was like, I was at London Fashion Week and my dad needed me because, he was like in an emergency situation, I'll have to put my family first. And I think this inclusivity comes from the fact that my parents taught me to be myself unapologetically. That meant, didn't matter what my skin type was, didn't matter what the scale said on the, about my weight. It didn't matter if my hair was falling off. My parents still told me that I was beautiful, that I was enough, and that I was something more than, what society will put you in a box to. So I got to be me, so I always give them credit for that. And I think because I was so sure of myself due to my parents, like didn't matter if I gained weight or if I lost weight or if I was getting darker or fairer or whatever, I learned that everyone was beautiful, everyone was equal, everyone had worth and value. And that was something my parents instilled in me. From the person who's driving you to school to the person who's cooking at your house, they all have worth and value, right? We treated everyone equally in our house. They all ate the same food as us. They were the same as us. We never treated them, we treated them as friends. So I think I learned that from a very young age. I saw that, nobody had to teach me really. It was just the way of life. And I really wanted to bring that into the beauty space, and in my brand, everyone's equal. In my campaigns, I have men who want to wear makeup. I have transgender, women and men. I have all sizes, all skin tones, women with vitiligo, different sort of ailments and alopecia. I like all of the things because I want to showcase that there is space for them in our community, right? Because I think we don't give enough space for everyone. And I think we all must hold space, and we all need to remember that we're valuable and we're worth it. And I think to show that, we must start with ourselves, and and then it will filter down and filter throughout the brand. And it's not just when I speak about it, I hope I think people know this, that it's not just a marketing ploy. It's really personal to me. So yeah, that's why it was a non-negotiable for us to be inclusive, because I think there is a need for that, for every little girl who is different to feel included. Because sometimes when I was younger, I didn't feel like I fitted in because I wasn't conforming. So, and I think sometimes, especially in the community that I grew up in Sri Lanka, if you're not conforming, if you're not like everybody else, you get branded as someone who is bad or naughty or not so good, or there's a lot of things, right? Or she has an attitude problem. No, she's just being herself. She's just not the way you're used to someone being. But I think I want to change that narrative in a bigger sense now.
Wow, so I guess having parents who really supported you was the pillar of...
It was everything.
Right. So Rosh, your brand is vegan, cruelty-free, ethical and sustainable, yet positioned as a high-end luxury. How do you balance conscious beauty with aspirational glamour?
I've been asked this before recently, and I thought to myself, the first thing that comes to my mind is, I don't think it's a compromise at all. I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. I don't know why a lot of people thought that. Maybe because brands try to push that to say, oh, we can't be vegan if we want to create good high-end luxury products or something. Honestly, I don't find it difficult at all. I think maybe because I find Australia as a whole to be very chill and very inclusive, and they are very nice. So I think cruelty free is a given there. I don't think we need to harm any animals to make these products safe or to make them perform well. I really don't think there's a place anymore for animal testing. I think we can make fragrance-free products, we can make vegan products. I don't think it compromises anything. If at all, it just adds more value and adds a whole load of new customers that can use you. Because the community does have fragrance allergies, or they want to be vegan, or there are a lot of things like that. And I think having those things will only benefit your brand, and I don't think it's a compromise at all. And I find it that being ethical and being sustainable is actually quite easy. I don't ever find it to be a challenge, because what is it? Glass packaging instead of plastic? How hard is it? It's a dollar more, right? Seriously, it's $1 more maybe. Maybe if you're making thousands in a batch, not even, So when people are saying, oh no, but it's expensive or you can't do it, I think they're just making excuses in terms of no brand can ever be 100% sustainable. No one can be. Even in our daily lives, we can't be. It's never going to happen, but we can only try, because I think our future generations deserve it. Because I think what we're doing to the planet is very scary, and we're not really realizing it. The floods, the landslides, the global warming, all of these things that are happening are a product of things we are doing. The earth is not very happy with us because, gas guzzling cars, the amount of food wastage, amount of shopping we do, all of it, right? All the plastics. I think if we are a little bit more mindful, it can go a long way, and it starts with each one of us. So as a brand, it's a non-negotiable in that sense too. And I don't think you need to compromise in terms of quality, luxury, and being vegan, cruelty-free, ethical, sustainable. I think those things go hand in hand, and I think luxury is ethical. It should be, at least.
So you've openly spoken about surviving domestic abuse and now advocate for women through your foundation, Bear. How has that chapter of your life shaped the woman and entrepreneur that you are today?
I think that's an interesting question, because I think it's really changed me as a person. I think when you go through, especially domestic physical abuse, this person used to strangle me and beat me. You wouldn't imagine, right? Me sitting here the way I am speaking, or the way I am, or if you meet me, I'm bubbly. You would never imagine that I went through something like that. And I like to say that all victims and survivors look different. So you're not going to always know what someone's been through, and you're not always going to know, but this is how a XYZ person should look like. And it doesn't work like that. But I think it really changed me. I wish, of course, that I didn't go through that, but if I had to do it all over again, because it was a terrible chapter of my life. But I have to say this, because if someone's going through this and watching this, I need you to know, if you get out, the best years are ahead of you. Because I remember my whole 20s, I spent with this person from 19 to 29. So people told me he robbed the best years of my life. And you know what I said? No, he didn't. Because the best years were always ahead of me, right? And I made sure, I told my mom was alive at the time. She's no longer with us. But at the time I told her, Ammi, I'm never going to let him have the best years of my life. And I made a promise to myself. I looked better. I did better. I was more successful after him. And I made sure that he didn't have the best years of my life. And anyone who's watching, you can do the same. You just need to get out and then work on yourself, right? And it's never too late. You can be in your 40s, your 50s. It's never too late to find happiness. I'm not meaning like with someone else or someone new. Within yourself, to be happy and content with yourself. So I really don't think, don't ever think that it's over, or I'm too old, or there's nothing more for me, or someone's robbed your youth. No one has. You can make sure that you have the best years of your life ahead of you. And I always believe that. And I think it's shaped me into being strong and resilient. I obviously wish it didn't happen to me, but I don't think I would have been this strong. I can face anything. I used to say this, if I could get over my ex, and I laugh and say this, I could get over anything. Because at the time, I was so brainwashed, right, to believing that I was nothing and he was everything, and this relationship was the end all and be all of my life. I really thought when he left me, that my life would be over. Like I could never, when you're in those moments, you feel like, I can never get over it. Like I can't, like I'm drowning. But I got over it. And I was fine, right? And if at all, I thrived. And it really showed how much that those kind of things were holding me back, if at all. So I think it shaped the woman I am today. And I think we can never know, if it didn't happen, where I would be today. We don't know. One thing my partner now tells me, my husband Ranga, I always asked him this same question, because I had this question. Would I not be me if I hadn't gone through that, if I wasn't with that person? Did it shape everything I am? He gave me the best answer. He said, you became everything you were despite him, right? In spite of everything he put you through, you still became everything you are. And you would have become everything you are today a little faster and a little earlier. But that's his view on it. I have no answer I don't know. I'll never know. You'll never know. These alternate things, or if this didn't happen, what could have happened? I guess I'll never know. But that's what my partner believes, that I would have always been this person. He just prolonged it and made it a little later. So yeah.
Okay, Rachel, we're on to the last question in this particular segment. So from Sri Lanka to Australia and now to London, what does the next evolution of Beauty by Rosh look like? And where do you ultimately see home for your brand?
I have no idea. That is the truth. So because as I said 2 months ago, I didn't know I was going to do London Fashion Week. I never know. Like I am being honest when I say I never know, and I don't like to plan. The reason I don't like to plan is life is so unpredictable. We would have never thought something like COVID would happen. Would we have ever imagined before COVID? We would have never imagined. Only thing I know about myself is I can pivot and I can take on anything. Okay, and that is something I have in me that I love. Because if tomorrow the worst thing happens to me, I know I can pick myself back up. Because when I lost my mom, it was the hardest thing I had to face. Actually, much harder than my divorce and all of the stuff that I went through. Everything had been hard, but nothing was as hard as like losing my mom. Because she was my confidant, she was my best friend. And that really took a toll on my life. I gained 30 kilos, then I lost the 30 kilos now. But these are always uphill battles, right? I know though that I can do it. If I can lose the 30 kilos, if I gain again, I can lose it again. Do you know what I mean? If you go through a hard time and you pick yourself back up after a divorce, that means if it happens again, you can do it again, right? If you go through grief, yeah, you'll go through the motions and you'll do it again though. You pick yourself back up and life goes on. And I think you can't predict life. You don't know what will happen. You don't know in 5 years if you'll be with the same partner, if your parent will still be alive, if you don't know anything, it's unpredictable. But the only thing you can predict is that you can be strong enough to face it. So even with my brand, just like my personal life, I don't plan that much ahead. You never know. It might be New York Fashion Week. It might be something else. It might be something I just set my heart to. All I know is I want my brand to represent everything I am because it's very personal to me. So I will never lose myself trying to make money or something like that. It's just not something I'm interested in because I'd rather keep my values and my ethics and showcase what I'm really passionate about. And I don't want to lose that in the process. That's all I know in the next 10 years, that it'll stay the same and I'll stay the same. Because if anybody knew me from when I was a kid, I'm still like the same person. I am truly me, right? And I think people know that if they ever have met me. So where will Beauty by Roche be? What home will it have? Will it be Australia or maybe London? I love London. I love going there. And I've done 6 pop-ups there already in the last 3 years. So we are looking for a permanent home there. Doesn't mean I'm going to move there, but I'm looking for a permanent home for Beauty by Roche there. We are currently in Singapore, Sri Lanka and Australia, so I'm looking for a permanent place there too. But what's next for Beauty by Roche? Even I don't know. So we'll all have to wait and find out.
All right, Roche, so we've come to the end of the first segment, which is a Q&A segment. But we have a fun little game for you on the other side, so we will see you soon.
Okay.
The latest issue of LMD is available at lmdmall.lk. You can also access the digital version on Press Reader, Maxter, our social media platforms and WhatsApp. The Voice of Business, a legacy of 30 years.
Hi Roche, welcome to segment 2 of the show where we have a fun little game. So what we have for you is a rapid fire round. So I will pose the question. Don't think too much, just answer whatever comes to your mind, okay? So the first one, runway glam or everyday glow?
One-way glam.
Bold lips or soft nude tones?
Soft nude tones.
Backstage chaos or front row calm?
Front row chaos.
Good one. All right. And this is a bit of a tricky one. Australia or London? Where are you most inspired right now?
London.
Minimal makeup or full glam?
Full glam.
Always, right?
Always. It's either full glam or nothing at all.
Okay. Planning every detail or trusting the creative instinct?
Oh, trusting the creative instinct. Trusting instinct, 100% gut feeling.
Okay. Pop-ups or permanent flagship store?
Pop-ups.
Flights or late night strategy sessions?
Flights, obviously. Strategy sessions on really long haul flights, because when I live in Australia, every flight is long. So
Okay. Skincare first or makeup first?
skincare first.
Neutral palettes or statement colors?
Neutral palettes.
Comfort zone or bold risk?
Bold risks.
Campaign shoots or masterclasses?
Masterclasses.
Business brain or creative heart?
Both. Business brand.
One product that you can't live without?
My Beauty by Roche foundation.
Okay, and the last one. One word that defines this season of life?
Intuitive.
Amazing. All right, so we've come to the end of the show. Thank you very much, Roche, for being with us and being so open with your answers. We wish Beauty by Roche all the very best and excited to see you on the runway at London Fashion Week and many more fashion weeks ahead in the years to come. And
Thank you.
wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much. There you have it. These are my answers to the questions in the game. Be sure to check out Living's Instagram and Facebook for the latest episode of Living Gets Real.